and welcome to Jeff Koinange live at La Puya d'Oro at the Intercontinental Hotel. And tonight, being Wednesday, is all about politics. And she ran for just about every important office in the city and county of Nairobi, from mayor to women's rep. Didn't make it, but continued on fighting. She tried to light up the city with something called Adopt a Light. And then she met up with a whole barrage of opposition. Mama Supu continues to be what she is, as outspoken and fair and frank and fearless as ever. She's been off air for quite a while, but she's back. We brought her back. And she's going to be speaking about everything from corruption, that's right, to the state of the nation. Her Twitter handle is at Esther Passari. Mine is at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. Sit back, Mama Supu or Mama Ta, depending on which side of the political divide you're on. Esther Passari, looking pretty good there.
Thank you.
I must say.
Uh-huh.
How come you wore red?
Somebody told me it's a power color this morning.
Good to see you, Esther.
Same here.
So you know, we talk about corruption, and you've heard about the latest scandal in Karen, which is just mind-boggling. But you have your own little problem in your own little neighborhood too.
Yeah, but Lens has issues. But I also think it's not just the institution; it's also Kenyans. I think we have just found ways to do things wrong, and we're attracted to it, and we pay the price, and that's what happens.
What happened to you?
Well, I have an injunction. I'm staying in a house. I've exercised my option to buy. While it's still going on, I basically write to National Land Commission and say, it seems like a provisional title was issued when the original title is sitting at the bank. So can you investigate? 10 months later, I get a response saying, yes, we do find something is wrong, but they actually are not the ones who are supposed to be investigating because it's a freehold. So I've been thrown now to the to the Ministry of Lands, which I'm pursuing from tomorrow. But I went to the CID, I handed it over to them. A provisional title was issued. I've been trying to register an injunction or a caveat, but every time I go to the lands office, with my lawyers, with clerks, everybody, we cannot find the file to register the injunction. So what happened is I gave it to the National Land Commission and said, can you do this for me? And in March, they didn't do it in March. The house shifted hands in July.
So it's been sold to somebody?
Sold to somebody in July. But for me, the law is very clear. At the end of the day, when an original title is there, a provisional title should be revoked. But I think, unfortunately, in Kenya, when you have a problem, when two people have a problem, it's an opportunity for everybody else that you go to, whether it's the police, whether it's any institution of government that you want to be served from, everywhere that you go, you will find that there are people that are trying to capitalize. How can we cash in on this fight? And that's the sadness.
And even sadder than that, Esther, is the fact that if this can happen to someone like you, a well-known political figure who's always out there, they know you, everybody knows you. Imagine Wanjiko. Imagine, you know.
Let me tell you something. The sadness is, as long as we haven't identified the Kenyans that actually do their job without without bribery, and they're proud of doing their job, we need to find a system where we recognize that if you go to Lands Commission and you met Kamau or Diambo or Mutiso, and he was very, very helpful, and he didn't expect any take. He just served you very well. We need to have a way to recognize these bright stars amongst us so that tomorrow when Jeff goes into Lens, he knows that Mutiso at counter 6 actually serves Kenyans. We need to find a way to break the pattern of going into Lens or going into the police or going into court or wherever and finding people that just want to make a buck. And then they frustrate you, everywhere where there's customs, you get frustrated. They make huddles, they create these huddles so that the easiest way for you is actually just bribe.
But at the same time, as Mama Charity Ngilu, the CS for Lands, was supposed to have really done an amazing job. And I've been there actually. I've been to the Lands building. And it's really improved from what it was maybe 5 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago.
No matter what anybody in government does, the head, as long as we, the people, do not want to change and are not willing to change, the institution will eventually crumble back to the same old routine.
So what you're saying is there's still a lot of rot in the ministry.
I think, I don't want to blame the institution. I think the institution is just a building, and there are people in there. These are Kenyan leaders that we've elected, and then there's the Kenyans who want the service, and then there's the ones that are employed to provide the service. As long as we have a situation where we are not able to understand that we all have to play a role in eradicating corruption, it's not going to go away. Just because Charity Ngilu wants to read lens of corruption, as long as you and I are still willing to go in there and pay a handout to get the service, she's wasting her time. You and I have to change. And that's where the problem is. And you and I have to actually give the institutions a chance. Like, I recently had a problem with the OCS of our police station because there was a status quo order and he was creating status quo. And then I went to IPOA to complain. And the next day I was supposed to serve him the court order. And he said to me, "You went to IPOA, so you cannot serve me." And I said, "Excuse me, why are you complaining that I went to IPOA? IPOA has been created by the government for Kenyans to go and report police who don't do their job correctly. I felt that you were not doing your job correctly. So it was my right to go and complain. So you can't refuse to serve me because I went to complain." So I think we need to have that dialogue, and we need to be firm about it, that we have rights as Kenyans, the institutions have to be used by us, and we have to be daring.
Yeah.
If we want to rid Kenya of corruption, it's not the government, it's not the president, it's not the ministers, it's not the CS. It's every individual Kenyan.
But can you find yourself being evicted one of these days? Can that happen? Are you afraid? Are you worried?
Do you know what? I mean, they came and they cut my fence. They came at 3 o'clock in the morning, about 30 of them, saying they were sent to remove my doors and remove my roof. And thank God they didn't, because the rain came immediately after. But
no.
Do you know what? If you're scared and if you let fear rule you, then you cannot live in this world. So I'm not scared, and I believe that eventually, if you stand for what is right, right always wins. It might take time, but I really believe that when you stand for what is right, you cannot lose.
Even here in Kenya?
Yes. I mean, listen, I'll tell you what. I mean, I was fought with the Dr. Light. I started off lighting Kibera. And today, I spend the whole morning in Kibera because the government is actually put some money aside to light up Kibera. So I got a portion of the tender. And when I was walking through Kibera, I was telling God that thank you. My way was doing it with the advertisers and really looking for the money. And now here is the government actually giving me a tender to go back to Kibera 5-6 years later to install the same lights. So it took time. It didn't go my way, but it's happening. So I think somehow patience pays. Yeah.
You were telling God, what did God say?
I mean, you know, you have your conversations with God. I think it's just acknowledging that God's time is always the right time. Yeah.
So you're getting part of this. You're going to light up
Kibera, and I was walking through there, and everybody was Mamata. Now, the unfortunate thing is that I'm not the only one. I mean, there's 3 other suppliers supposedly doing it, and each of us have been given 7 lights to put out. And I just hope that everybody maintains a good standard, because when you're looking at Kibera, you're looking at a densely populated area, and you want to make sure that the jobs are done right. And what scares me is that if anything is not done correctly and something goes wrong, every light that's installed in Kenya, everybody thinks it's Mamata. So, you know, I want to make sure that the job is done correctly and the government does benefit with that expenditure for the people of Kibera.
After Kibera, where else?
I hope that they're going to go to all the slums because, you know, one thing that I noticed when we first lit up the slums of Nairobi is that trade happened. All of a sudden, you had people trading. All of a sudden, you had less fires. Even though you had illegal connections, you did have less fires because the kerosene stoves were the ones that were causing most of the fires in Kibera. When was the last time we heard about a fire in Kibera? They have all the illegal connections, and now they're trying to legalize the connections because they're saying the consumption is so little, so why not give it to them? So I have a feeling that we're getting there, step by step. It's taking time, but Rome wasn't built in a day.
This is true. It's true. And you know, if you look at Kenya, a year and a half after the Jubilee administration, which Are you part of Jubilee or ODM? I get confused.
All right. I mean, I think I started with KANU like everyone else.
That's right.
I'm 50, so, you know, I started...
You're 50?
Yeah, so I started with KANU.
No, come on.
Yeah.
You're 50?
Heroes Day, baby. Kenyatta Day, baby. Yeah. But anyway, I started off with KANU, and then I joined NUC Kenya, and then I joined ODM, and then I joined Kenya National Congress. Right now, I'm partyless, and I want to stay that way, because unfortunately, parties in Kenya are just vehicles. All right, we haven't got to the point where the party has substance. Our parties, the substance in our party is from who heads the party. And unfortunately, everybody that heads the party then becomes like a tribal thing. We haven't reached the point where a party can actually say, we are truly a reflection of Kenya. And we have values and we have a vision and you know, we have good foundation. We haven't got there yet.
No.
I think right now you've got TNA, which used to be PNU. You've got CORD. I mean, there's just too many things.
CORD is an umbrella, by the way.
This is a coalition, yeah, and so was TNA, isn't it?
Sure.
But I have a feeling that we've got a long way to go before we strengthen parties. And after elections, parties somehow seem to die until the next election.
Yeah.
And I think that's the challenge to our leaders. Strengthen your parties. Let them have values. Let them have proper vision so that you can come back to the electorate and say, we were there. It'll be a shame if, again, we don't have the same parties in the next election.
Speaking of the next election, you going to run?
Actually, I'm thinking not. But you know, politics. I wasn't planning on running in the last election either. And 3 weeks before the election, I was pulled in. At the current moment, no. I want to focus on social work and social good. I want to create jobs. And I've got projects that I've thought through. I have a big project that I want to launch, but only after I've had an audience with the president. Tough to see him, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's watching you
watching.
now.
Yeah,
maybe he's
exactly.
watching you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind. No, I'm kidding. I was saying they've been in office a year and a half. What do you think of? What report card would you give them right now? What grade would you give them overall?
I think they're doing good.
What's that? Is it good? A C plus? What's good?
A B plus.
B plus. Really?
A B plus, yeah. I'm a tough teacher. A B plus. I think, and the reason why they probably haven't attained the A or the A star is because there's just so much going on. We've got to get rid of this Hague thing, the umbrella of the Hague, and get it out of the way because it's been there. It's, when you look at our papers, that's what we focus on.
But the head recently just gave away his powers. He literally gave away the presidency.
He didn't give away the presidency.
He handed it over.
Well, I mean, he was going. I think what he did was very noble. And I tell you, even just today, looking at the papers and watching the First Lady walk the World Bank director.
Yes, and also Ban Ki-moon as well.
Exactly.
And National Hospital.
It shows you that the president is focusing on other things and he's not scared of sharing that power and letting people grow in their space. And what he did was right. I think he won the respect of so many Kenyans. He just said, I'm going as Uhuru. I'm not dragging the whole country with me. And that was fantastic. Yeah. And let's just hope that this thing just finishes so that we can get on with running our country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, look, let's face it. I mean, recently, you know, Kenya was promoted or upgraded to a middle-income nation. You know, GDP is 50 billion US. I mean, we're moving. I mean, we're moving.
Kenya is a vibrant economy, and we should not lose focus of that. And as leaders of this country, when we look around at all the countries in the world that have issues, from Egypt, which we used to look up to and say, wow, you know, we have to look at all the countries that have problems and ask ourselves, is that the direction we want to go? And if that's not the direction we want to go, then our leaders need to sit down and actually decide that we need to put Kenya first. We cannot be politicking from the beginning of the term to the end of the term. You know, it's time to just serve Kenyans. And every leader that wants the best for Kenya doesn't have to be the leader to drive Kenya. Be part of the process to get Kenya to the next step. Because if you don't get Kenya to grow today because of politicking, then what happens 5 years down the line if you're going to take over the leadership is you're taking something that has a long way to go. But if you help in the growth right now, and I loved it. I mean, recently I think Raila supported Uhuru on something. And everybody was like, oh, why? What? You know? And I said, that was fantastic. I mean, just because you're opposition doesn't mean you cannot agree.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
I think it was about the summoning the CSs to Parliament.
Right, that's right.
And I believe that leaders, after elections, if they really care about Kenya, should put their political differences aside and work together.
Which brings me to the referendum question. Does a referendum make any sense, Esther? Do we need a referendum?
I think we need more civil education. We need to focus that money on poverty eradication. But also the concerns. This is, you know, when you look at Kenya's elections over the last 2 terms, we've had almost a 50-50 split. Yeah. Now, for any leader who wants to govern Kenya, when you see a 50-50 split, you've got to listen to both sides. You cannot say that we won and so be arrogant about it and not listen to the other side. Because ultimately, 100% makes Kenya. So if you're a leader and you care about Kenya, then what you've got to do is listen to the other side, because the other side represents 49 or 50% of Kenyans. And as long as you ignore them, you're never going to be able to lead. You're never going to be able to take this country forward. Yeah. So I believe that it's time that we listen to the opposition and their concerns. And as Kenyans and as leaders, where can we find that merger that makes us put Kenya first? Because their concerns are probably valid.
Sure.
Yeah. And as long as you don't have confidence in the IEBC, then the next election will take us back to 1997.
Yeah, but the same IEBC that they're complaining about is the same IEBC that they agreed upon.
Yes, true. But you see, the thing is, as long as people think something is defective, right? And you're talking about leaders that
defective
represent...
as long as it doesn't suit your needs?
You know, Jeff, I don't want to group Kenyans, okay? I think as long as we look at each other as one unit, right? If there is a problem that leaders that represent a good percentage of Kenyans are concerned about, then we need to fix it. Maybe we should go back to the IPPG, where we all again choose people. I know that IEBC, the people that were, the commissioners that were chosen by all the parties, but something was amiss. We believe, or they believe, that something was amiss. So right now, even the leader who is elected and sworn in, as long as he feels that a certain percentage of Kenyans do not believe that you are rightfully in office, right? He needs to not stand firm and say, I'm not going to fix this. He needs to listen so that we can fix it. Because I'm telling you, the best leader for Kenya is the one that unites us, not the one that divides us.
Absolutely, yes. And I totally agree. You know, and at the end of the day, we will never all agree on one thing. Let's face it. And I want to talk about that after. We'll never all agree. There'll always be the aggrieved parties.
True.
Right?
True.
Okay, moving forward. State of the nation. Where are we going as a nation, as a country? Are we moving in the right direction? I want to talk more about that. I mean, things are looking up for the most part, but sometimes, look, like for instance, Pesa Mashinani, with the governors. Now they want more money. They want from what they're getting, which is close to 42%. They want 45%. You know, come on.
I think...
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Hold that thought. And also, you know, overall, where are we going as a nation? You sure you won't run in 17?
At the moment, as of today, no.
In 17, you'll only be 52.
I know.
President turned 53 the other day.
I know. Fantastic.
You're the same Rika.
Same club.
Mama Supu. Oh my. It's good to see you, Esther.
Same.
Wow. We're speaking about the state of the nation with Mamata herself. It's good to see that you're lighting up the slums. Good stuff. Good stuff. Somebody's finally listening. Send us your tweets at Esther Passari, at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. JKL takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.